I want to just talk because I think it's more personal that you can see me and we can talk. When I bring up the PowerPoint presentation, we're going to go through the slides and it'll happen fairly quickly. But I wanted to talk a bit about the history of Chromebooks, which is a very interesting history. And not a lot of people know this because they haven't been around as long as I have, but I wanted to tell you how Chromebooks came to be, and then we'll go through the technology of the Chromebooks. Now, the Chromebooks actually, the reason for the Chromebook was really Apple and the iPad. So the iPad first came to the United States in 2010. And prior to that, Apple was involved, of course, in the school systems, and they gave away a lot of Apple products to schools and they planted seeds all around to all the education facilities, really around the world, that that Apple was synonymous with good education, and when iPads came along, that concept grew, and it just became crazy, and so most school systems had big projects, big programs for iPads. In fact, the Los Angeles School District, probably it was about 3 or 4 years ago, had a $345 million budget that was associated with just to purchase iPads. My daughter's an international teacher as her husband. 10 years ago, we went, or I guess 8 years ago, we went to New Zealand to see them, and New Zealand being a poorer country, they had iPads in elementary even 8 years ago, and they moved the trolleys around. Well, about 4 years after that, both my daughter and her husband got promotions, and they ended up at a very prestigious school in Singapore. And there, every school, all from grade 1 to grade 12, they all got brand new iPads each year. Now they even got bigger promotions and now work out of Beijing. We won't go into that. That's a long story. But at the Western Academy of Beijing, and again, they're all iPads, right? So so Apple really dominated the school system. So and that's very interesting and good for Apple that they did that. Well, one of the things that happened was to run the system and to run these school districts requires a lot of IT experience. It requires the back end to run the networks to keep everybody connected. And Apple didn't really want to be involved in that. They were never interested in networking. And that's where Google came along. And Google, of course, today, 80% of or 90% of the networks in the United States are all run by G Suite and Google. And they run all the networking and everything like that. And Apple was fine with that. Google just ran the networking and they ran everything. And they said, and the iPads and all the Apple equipment worked through the schools through the Google networking. Now, and then what happened was the school districts were all getting sort of concerned because these iPads were really expensive and they had big budgets. So Google came along and thought, we could make a product that would be cheaper than an iPad. And that's where they came up with the idea of a Chromebook. And the Chromebook, of course, had to be extremely safe, and it had to be network orientated because they would all run in the school networks. And the idea of the Chromebook was hatched in about 2000. Let me think now. This would be about probably 2005. They introduced Chromebooks. No, 2015. They introduced Chromebooks into the school system, and they became very, very popular. The school system flourished, and they became extremely popular. But they were never sold to the general public. You couldn't buy them at Best Buy. You couldn't buy them at, and they weren't commercially available. You heard about Chromebooks, and Chromebooks were in schools, but everybody just thought the Chromebook was a device that was sort of made for schools or something like that, right? So what happened was they had them in the schools, and then the year before Windows 10 was released was a bad year for everybody. None of the companies, Toshiba left the market, HP moved their laptop division out of the printer division. I mean, it was a really bad year. They didn't sell any PCs, and it was really, except the people who made all the money, like ASUS and Acer and that, they were all making Chromebooks, right? So it was in that year that the first graduating class from the high schools graduated who had Chromebooks for about 5 years. And they went to university and they decided, gee whiz, we want to buy a Chromebook. But there weren't any Chromebooks for sale. You couldn't go to Best Buy. The only way you could get a Chromebook was to buy it online as a refurb from the school districts, right? That's the only way you could get a Chromebook. So what happened is, let's see, I've got a senior's moment. Anyway, Samsung came along, and they brought out the first commercial Chromebook that you could buy, and I bought one and was in line to get it. And they sold out worldwide in 4 days. And it wasn't until another 4 months after that that you could actually purchase a Chromebook. And then then the rest is history. So that's the sort of the history of how Chromebooks came to be. Great. All right, here's the, I hope everyone can see this and hear me fine. If you can't, hit the space button and let me know. But this is, we'll start there. Now, this is the history that I just went over. You don't have to look at that slide. We did that now. I wanted just to go over some myths of Chromebooks. Myths would be Chromebooks are inexpensive computers. They can be, or they can be a very expensive computers. They're good for checking email and surfing. That's all they're good for, and that's not true. Chromebooks are only web browsers, and that's not true either. We'll talk about that today. Now, people are looking for alternatives. Chromebooks are being tasked to be replacements for Microsoft Windows. We now have Linux support for these machines, and of course the Android apps from the Play Store. We talk about, this was a slide I used for what will you do for your Windows 7 machines. It is possible school districts did this if they had a lot of old Windows 7 machines. You can put the Chromium operating system on a PC, and you can make a Chromebook. Well, it's not exactly. It's a Windows PC that runs the Chromium operating system using a software called Neverware, and this is free for personal use. I don't really recommend doing that. It is available, and it does sometimes work. It is actually very helpful for schools who have large numbers of old Windows 7 machines, because they can make sort of a Chromebook out of them. Now, Chromebooks, as you know, are being sold at great numbers in schools. This is a picture that Judy Tallur, you probably know Judy, she works at APCUG. She sent me this picture, and this is the high school district in 2018-2019 bought 23,000 Chromebooks, and that was just her school district. If you go to Walmart, this was Walmart in Mesa, and you look there and you look at the lineup there, in the first line, those are all Chromebooks. In fact, this particular Walmart had twice as many Chromebooks as PCs. So they are becoming very, very popular, and you're seeing lots of them being displayed. If you go to Walmart online and you look and do a search for Chromebooks, and I did that recently, you will find that this brought up 979 results. So Walmart indeed has a huge number of Chromebooks. I frequently go by Best Buy and have a look and see how they're doing and talk to the salesman. And you know, 4 or 5 years ago, they would say things like, well, Chromebooks are cheap computers. There's not much you can really do with them. I'd recommend a PC. That's all gone away now. I find that the Best Buy salespeople are quite well versed in them. They have, and again, they have a big section of Chromebooks in Best Buy. So there's lots of selection around. You may or may not know who Satya Nadella is, but he is the CEO of Microsoft. And he wrote a book recently, well, a couple of years ago, and the book was called Hit Refresh. And in the book, he talked about changes that he was making in Microsoft, but he said that Windows may not be the dominant operating system of the future. And I do believe that. And if you see that Paul Thurrott, who's a writer who writes tech articles as well, well-versed, he just announced that there's 3 times as many Chromebooks being sold in the United States as PCs. So in a very short period of time, things have changed dramatically. And a lot of it is based on this slide. If you look at this slide, you'll see on the top left, you'll see a great big truck with a lot of trailers on the back of it. And that's sort of Microsoft. Microsoft needs a lot of horsepower to go. It uses a lot of gas. It's very large. If you look at the bottom right side, you'll see Apple. Apple as well is a big operating system. It uses a lot of gas, and it requires a lot of horsepower to run. I want you to think of the Chromium operating system, which runs the Chromebooks as the engine in a Mazda Miata, one of these little cars, the little sports car on the left, and you could probably put 100 of those in that great big truck. So it's a tiny little operating system that is very powerful and works very well, and it's called the Chromium operating system. And in fact, all Chromebooks have 2 copies of the operating system on your Chromebook. So because it's so tiny, it works, it's easy and portable, and you don't need the horsepower or all the gas that those big trucks use. Now, as I mentioned before, the Chromium operating system, there are 2 copies on every Chromebook. There's the primary copy and the secondary copy. Now, all Chromebooks also have this device here. If you look up on the right-hand side, on the right-hand side here, you'll see this is called a TPM chip. This chip on the top right-hand side is called a TPM, which is a Trusted Platform Module. Now, what is in there is all the security features of a Chromebook. And if you try to tamper with that chip, it will self-destruct. So you can't do anything with that. And and Google makes these are Google security chips that you have to buy if you want to make a Chromebook. So if you are ASUS or your company making Dell, you're making Chromebooks, you have to have you have to buy a bag of these chips, and each Chromebook will have one of these chips installed in it. So how does this work? Well, if you look down on the bottom left hand, and you'll see that the chip, this is in the middle here, is where the chip is in the computer. If you look over on the bottom left, you'll see that there's 3 bars there. You'll see the yellow bar there. So when your Chromebook starts up, when it initiates, it goes through a scan. It goes through 3 scans. It goes through a primary scan, and that scan goes and checks against the TPM chip to see if there's any malware or any problems with the operating system. And if it passes the first test, then it goes to a deeper scan, and then it goes through a 3rd scan, which is the red. So it goes through 3 scans and compares the operating system to the security on that chip, and make sure that there's no abnormality. If there is any concerns or there's any changes that occur, then it completely reverts to the secondary copy. So the primary copy would then not be loaded. It would be the secondary copy. The secondary copy would go through the 3 scans. And if it did not pass, if both failed, then it would go out onto the internet and download another copy of the Chromium operating system and install it. So you will never, so Chromebooks are not hackable. You can't break into them. The TPM chip has never been compromised. So those are, so it does that. Now the other thing is your Chromebook updates just like Windows does, but you'll never know that because it updates the secondary copy. And when you turn your Chromebook off at night, it changes the primary and secondary copies, so you always have the updated copy. It's not like Windows, which in the middle of your presentation will say, we are updating your computer. You would never know that your Chromebook is updating. So again, there's two complete operating systems on your Chromebook. They go through 3 scans before they're loaded up to ensure your safety and your security, because of course these are used for children in the classroom and so in network, so they had to be very, very, very secure. And to download a fresh copy and reinstall it would take probably 2 minutes. All right, so so we're not talking about days like Microsoft would do. Now, the other thing I want you to look at is you need to understand, and unfortunately this is a bit of a tiny picture on the left, is most of you probably understand with Windows, if you install a program on Windows, it installs it into the operating system. And you probably, everyone in the club's been around a long time, probably use Windows a lot, and you all know about DLL files and all the files that a program, when you install it in Windows, dumps into the Windows operating system. Of course, and we've all had in the history, we've had lots of problems because when you want to uninstall a program, it's always hard to get all those little parts that it's already dumped into Windows out. So there's this, when you install a program in Windows, it's like the roots go down into the ground and they grow into the operating system. And this makes it very difficult sometimes to get the program out of the operating system. Well, the Chromium operating system uses apps. We don't use programs, they use apps. And the apps run on the surface of the operating system. And the apps are considered hostile. So they have absolutely no ability to enter into the operating system. They work on top of the operating system and they don't penetrate the operating system at all. So there's no way any apps that work on the surface of the Chromebook can have any effect on the operating system. The other thing that happens is sandboxing. So with each tab in Chrome that's open, it's sandboxed from another tab. So if you had a misbehaving, or you went to a website that was that had viruses or something bad on that site, it couldn't do anything. It can't get out of the tab because it's sandboxed, and it certainly can't affect the operating system because it has no ability to even get to the operating system. So this makes, again, an added security feature that makes it really, really, these machines are very, very, very secure. And we just talked about that. All Chromebooks will have solid state drives. There are no spinning drives in them. They will work exactly like a regular computer. They'll have RAM in it, and they will have a solid state drive. Now, in your purchase considerations of a new Chromebook, I like to talk a little bit about that. I like to try and stay within the same operating system. One of the problems I see, of course, I'm passionate about Chromebooks. I do Chromebook special interest groups in our club, and I talk all the time about Chromebooks. So I get some people who have, of course, have an iPhone, and they might even have an iPad, and they go and buy a Chromebook. And that's really not a smart thing to do. If you have an iPhone and you're looking at a computer, you really want to stay within the Apple ecosystem because these systems works better. The same thing if you have an Android phone, a Chromebook is a good option. You don't want to have a Windows machine, an iPhone, and a Chromebook. Now you've got to learn Windows, you've got to learn the Apple operating system, and then you've got to learn another one. So it just gets complicated. I do this all the time. I like operating systems, but most people don't. They just want machines to work. So I like to try and stay within the same system. And consider your smartphone in the purchase. So if you have, if you're a Google person, you have an Android phone, then of course a Chromebook would work well for you. The other thing is to consider your family members. My wife is a sewer. She has a number of sewing machines that are linked into Windows, a Windows machine, and her software is Windows based, and it won't run on a Chromebook. So you know, you have to look at that too, you know, other family members. And are there any special requirement softwares, specific specialized software that you might be using that is a Windows base, and before you worked and moved over to a Chromebook, you'd want to make sure that software was available for your Chromebook. The other thing that's a little bit different about Chromebooks are the Chromebook in a Windows machine. You license Windows for that machine. So as long as that machine is running, then Windows will be supported for as long as it goes on that machine. So your license with Microsoft is with the machine. Now the license with Google is different. Sorry, the license with Microsoft is with the software. The license with Google and Chromebooks is with the machine, and Google basically expires the machines. So when you purchase a Chromebook, it will usually be good for around 7 or 8 years, and they will keep updating and looking after you. But after a period of time, the Chromebook will then expire. Now it will still work, you just won't get updates. So it is something that you need to know. And the reason I like to bring this up, it's really not an issue if you're buying a new Chromebook, but if you're buying a refurbished Chromebook online, which I don't recommend you do, then a lot of times these come from schools, and the schools lease millions of these things, and then the leasing companies take them and dump them back on Amazon. Well, the problem is if you got a machine and it's being used for 4 years in a school district, then you're only going to get about 3 years out of it before it expires. So all these machines have expiry dates. We're hoping, and the packaging on the machine should be changing, so when you go to Best Buy and you're going to buy a machine, you can look on the box and see when it's going to expire. In purchasing a machine, you should consider the requirements that you have, make a budget, and stick to the budget. The other thing that I wanted to, and I talk about this a lot, is consider if you really need a laptop. And the problem with laptops, if you have a laptop that's been sitting on your desk for 5 years and it's never moved, you're really doing yourself a disservice, because the battery is, all computers now, all laptops have non-removable batteries. You can't take the batteries out. Chromebooks or any laptops now, they are fixed in there. In the slide at the bottom, you'll see there is this is the old style. This is an old Toshiba I had. You could certainly pop it out at the back, but that's not the case anymore. And oftentimes the batteries are actually glued into the chassis and used as a heat sink for them. So if you're not going to move, excuse me, if you're not going to move your computer and it's going to be there for a long time, then consider a device that doesn't have a battery. And this is called a Chromebox. And these devices are Chromebooks, but they have hard drives, they have the operating system and everything there, and they have, and you can get them with i7 processors, and as all sorts of different specifications in them, but they don't have a battery. And you can see they're actually quite small, and they can actually fit on the back of your monitor. And these are called Chromeboxes, and I would consider one of those. One of the things that, so here's some considerations in buying a Chromebook. We'll talk a little bit about those. What size of screen should you buy? Well, that really doesn't matter. I think for sure with seniors, you want the larger the screen, the better. But usually the maximum screen size in a Chromebook is about 15 inches. All Chromebooks you can plug in and get a bigger screen. I have two 32-inch screens in front of me today, soon to be 3, and so I don't know how anyone can. I mean, as we get older as seniors, we need to we always have problems seeing screens. So so I think that's not a big issue on the side. If you find a machine that has a 13-inch screen, not a big deal. If you like that, the cost is okay, then you can just plug a larger screen in. Now, should the screen flip? Should you get one that has a 2-in-1 or a flip screen so it flips over on itself? Many people who buy Windows machines buy these to flip over. I've never met anybody that's ever used Windows in a tablet form. I tried it for 3 weeks, and the only thing I can say using Windows in a tablet form is creepy. It's just weird. I can't possibly imagine anyone doing that. However, you got to remember on a Chromebook, all the apps that you're going to be using on a Chromebook all are also on your phone, your smartphone. So, and all those apps on your smartphone are touchy-feely apps. They're apps that will do all sorts of things with a touch screen. So I think on a Chromebook, this is actually an important feature. I think you'll be using the touch screen quite a bit because you'll be comfortable with the apps because you're using them on your phone. So I like a touch screen on and a flip screen on a Chromebook. How bright is it? The brightness of the screen is measured in nits, N-I-T-S, and all Chromebooks are different. Well, all PCs, all laptops are all different. One of the things you want to do is when you go down to, before you buy a machine, is make sure you go down and look at how bright is the machine. 400 nits is a real bright machine, and we'll talk a little bit about that later when I make some recommendations. Screen resolution, and this is a big one. If you buy a $150 Chromebook, you are going to get a really low res screen. And so my screen that I have on my $1,500 Pixelbook is a high res screen. It's a very nice HD screen. You can get screens that, of course, are not only HD but 4K screens. There's all sorts of choices that you have, but people sometimes get carried away that they actually can buy a Chromebook. Actually, I think it's $167, and we'll talk about that in a minute. And that would do some very basic things for you, but your resolution, of course, will be quite low in that. Here's the purchase. Yeah, and this is just an example of some Chromebooks with external monitors. What type of hard drive? You do not have to worry about your hard drive. They will all be solid state. There are no spinning hard drives. Now, this is a slide that I usually show people when we're talking about PCs. So I like to throw this in about Chromebooks. How to secure your new computer? Well, we'll say new Chromebook. Have a plan for your data. Now, if you use Google Drive, you don't have to worry because it will all be there. I always like seeing the smiles on people's face when they turn their Chromebook on and they log into their Google account and they see their Gmails all there, their Google Drives there, all their files are there, and they didn't do anything. So if you have everything in Google Drive and you're a Google person, it will all be there. If you are a Microsoft person or you have your files stored in other areas, then you'll have to make plans to move your data. Apply available updates immediately. You'll see that as the next. This is not necessary. There will be nothing on a Chromebook that you ever need to do to apply updates. Zero. You will not need to do anything. It will do it all in the background automatically. Make sure auto updates is turned on. Like I said, in Chromebooks, that doesn't matter. It's always going to do. Review security programs. There are no security programs on a Chromebook, none. You don't need malware bytes. You don't need any any antivirus programs. That is all built into a Chromebook. Install a password manager. We often tell you if you have a PC, install a password manager. Your Chromebook comes with a very secure password manager. Now, I also, when you buy a new PC, I always recommend dumping all the bloatware or crapola stuff that you get stuck on there. No Chromebooks have anything other than the bare essentials that come with as standard with all Chromebooks. There are no bloatware, there's no added programs, there's nothing on that Chromebook. What you get is all the stuff that Google will give you, which is a complete operating system. You'll get Google Drive and all the programs that you will need to run your Chromebook, all free and come with your Chromebook. Give all user their own account. Yes, Chromebooks, like most machines now, are very account driven. So your account is what you log on to your Chromebook with, your Google account. I just wanted to, I'm not going to spend a lot of time talking on ARM versus Intel. This is a slide I put in a couple of years ago. We see a lot of ARM processors in Chromebooks. People often ask me what was an ARM processor and what was this doing in a Chromebook. But of course, now you're seeing this last year, you're seeing mainstream computers all having ARM processors in them. So ARM is a company that makes a processor like Intel, and you'll see a lot of these in Chromebooks. One of the things that in the original Chromebooks that were the first Chromebooks that were made, that were sold on a commercial basis, they had what we called, you had to download the apps from the Chrome Web Store, which was fine. They had a lot of apps that were there that you could download. But about 3 years ago, Google made the big announcement, and it said that all apps in the Play Store would now work on a Chromebook. This is a big announcement, and this meant that millions and millions of apps that are all in the Play Store all work on your Chromebook. So, however, if you have an older Chromebook, we don't see this as much now because we're getting farther along into the life cycle of these machines. But if someone did buy a 5-year-old machine that was, a refurb or something like that, it may not be able to use the Play Store. Some of the, if it was older than 3 years ago, then it may not have the capability. Certainly all Chromebooks now have the capability of using the Play Store. This is a Chromebox. We talked about those before. Now, I want to talk about things that you can do with your Chromebook. You can do everything with your Chromebook that you could do with a PC. I participated in a program that Geeks on Tour put on. This is friends of mine, and we talked about video editing on a Chromebook. All Chromebooks have SD slots in them. You'll find that they have smaller hard drives than you would normally expect. Most of them come with 64 or 128 gigabyte hard drives, and you will find that the reason is because they expect you to store most of your files in Google Drive. So, but they all come with SD card slots, and you'll see on the side here, you'll see the SD card slot here. And I'd just like to remind you that that cards are so cheap now. I think I bought this this card, this 512 gigabyte card, was about 45 or 50 bucks. You can get 1 gigabyte cards as well, and they just slide into there. So if you need to expand your memory on a hard drive in a Chromebook, it's very easy to do. Now, there's a condition that we call power washing. And what power washing is, it's a button you put on hit on your Chromebook, and it makes it back to factory certification. And we often, and you certainly can do that, and you can power wash your Chromebook. I want to draw your attention over here on the left-hand side. You'll see a group of Chromebooks sitting on the left side here. And this is as you go into a conference meeting, This was a, I'm not sure the company that had these, but you grabbed a Chromebook, you brought it into the company meeting, you plugged your USB key into it, you ran your PowerPoint or wherever you're going to use, and then you pulled the key out, and then you power washed the Chromebook and you put it back in this stand for the next person to use. This was the most secure way that companies can now, and a lot of companies are doing this. They don't want you to actually have a PC and have the data on a PC. They find that having loaner Chromebooks like this, you can run your program, plug your card in and use it, and then you power wash it, and everything is completely expunged from the machine. There's no way anyone can get that data back, and this is the most secure way particularly for secrets and companies and stuff like that. I'm not going to spend a lot of time talking about Project Christini, but needless to say, Linux can run on a Chromebook. In fact, the Linux is available and installed on a Chromebook. So this actually works very well for Linux users. So if you are a Linux user, you can also use a Chromebook, and it runs very well on a Chromebook. In fact, I have a video out that I can give you the link to. The video is called "It's Only a Chromebook," and in there I talk. I run a number of programs in different tabs, and you can't tell which operating system it's running in. It's really quite amazing. So that works out very well, and that's called Project Christini. Printing from a Chromebook is easy. I'm going to give you a little tip. I spend half my life running around doing tech support on printers, not Chromebooks, but it's always a biggie in our group. Now, if you are going to buy a Chromebook, it is so easy if you get an HP printer. All HP printers have Chromebooks don't need software, they don't need drivers, they just work, okay? All HP printers have the capability of printing from any Chromebook. So if you are thinking of buying a Chromebook and you need a new printer, please buy an HP printer. It works so easy on a Chromebook. Those of you who might be Canon fans, some Canons work with Chromebooks, some don't. I've never been able to figure out which ones do and which ones don't. Brother is a total other story. I have no idea. Some of those, I find if it works, fine, but if not, it's a big problem. So Brother is a big problem, but HP is where you want to be with Chromebooks. Now, there's 4 ways you can hook a Chromebook up. One of them is going away. First of all, you can hook a Chromebook directly up to your printer. So you just plug it right into the USB port, and it will work just fine. You can also use it wirelessly, like many of you probably all do that now. You connect your printer to your wireless network, and bingo, it will work. And the Chromebooks just got a new operating system about 3 or 4 months ago. The Chromium, I forget the version number, but it even made it easier to connect your printer to your Chromebook. Shouldn't be a problem. You can also directly connect it to your printer. Most printers actually work as a hotspot, and you could connect directly to the printer from your Chromebook if you wanted to do it that way. We talk a lot about cloud printing. Cloud printing was a concept that Google had, and it thought, well, we have these Chromebooks that are coming out, and we have all these different printers around the world. We have Brother, we have Canon, we have HP. How are we going to print all these different computers or printers? And they thought, what we'll do is we'll have you send the file to the cloud. We will arrange that and bring it down into your printer and print it off. This was called cloud printing. Because of these other 3 methods, this really isn't needed anymore. And Google announced this year that as of December of 2021, cloud printing will be finished. Again, we're just talking, this is just about talking about the your router and what we've already discussed. And again, if you go and you look at printers at Costco or wherever, or Staples, you will see this sign on there saying Google Cloud Print Ready. And that's what this meant. Was that meant that the printer was Chromebook compatible, okay? But this is all going away. So this is old labeling. All right, so there's a website called Chrome Unboxed. Robbie Payne's one of the contributors there, and he wrote an article a couple of weeks ago. So this is pretty pertinent on what Chromebooks to buy. And in there, they categorized them into three levels. One was under $300. One was $300 to $650, and the other one was over $650. So I want to just go over some models to give you guys a hint on if you're interested in a Chromebook. Now, this is pretty pertinent. I think these figures were all 100% correct 2 weeks ago, but as you know, the cost of these things change dramatically with very shortly. So if you're looking at Chromebooks under 300, there were three models that got notable mention. On the left-hand side, you'll see the Lenovo Chromebook 3 is available, and you can buy that at Walmart for $169. Now, this actually works well. There's nothing really wrong with it. It has a small screen. It's 11.6 inches. It's a low-res screen. It's made of plastic. And it's a cool little Chromebook that will do probably most of the things you want, and you can purchase that for $169. And that's one of the reasons why I don't recommend you buy refurbished machines on Amazon. I think that's a bad decision, because with this machine, this Chromebook 3, you would have it for 7 or 8 years before it expires. The Lenovo S340 is a nicer one. This has a touch screen. It has a faster processor, and it's $299. And this S340, I think, is available at Best Buy. If you go up and look at the next model up of Lenovo, the C340, this is even a better deal, and this is a flip. So this actually is a 15-inch screen that flips onto itself. It has an Intel Celeron as well, and it's $299. So it would be a better deal than the one just to the left. However, the best Chromebook under for under $300 has got to be this is brand new model. Now you'll have a hard time finding this machine, but this is called the Lenovo Chromebook Duet, and it's for $299. What makes this so interesting is if it's a detachable keyboard, so it's a tablet, and so it's a tablet or a laptop, but it has an HD screen. Look at the resolution here. It is a touch screen, and it's 1920 by 1200. The other thing is it's got 400 nits of brightness, which is really amazing in a screen. It has this is a brilliant, really nice screen. I think the screen's probably worth about $500. I have no idea how they're selling this for $299. This is a really, really great deal, and would be my choice for the under 300. All right, let's look at the $300 to $650 now. If you look on the left-hand side, you'll see the Pixel Slate. Now the Pixel Slate, the reason I put it in here is because it's $649, so it made the cutoff. But this is being reduced. This is a 1-year-old version of one of Google's main line of Chromebooks, and this was normally around $1,200. And they have recently discounted this at the Google store, and so that's made it a very reasonable price. This is a 2-in-1. It flips. It's a tablet. It has a very nice screen, and it's 12.3 inches. It's a high-res screen, and it's a very nice machine. It's a tablet, but it also has a keyboard, detachable keyboard, And for $649, this is about half the price it was a year ago. So this is great. By far, one of the greatest machines in this, if you just go from the last machine from the last that we looked at, and you come over here, the Lenovo Flex 5 is an unbelievable buy for $409. So if you just had $100 more than the last one we showed you, this has a 4-inch 2-in-1 touchscreen. It has an i3 processor. It has a backlit keyboard. Beautiful machine for $409. This is a very, 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 very good machine. And it's made by Lenovo, called the Flex 5. I think this is one of the best values there is for Chromebooks now. Now the Pixelbook Go is the main under sort of $650 that Google has. Google makes the Pixelbook Go. It's a new model this year. It's a 13-inch touchscreen. It's got a fast processor, backlit keyboard. Very, very nice machine. And this again is a very good choice as well. However, the award really goes to the Lenovo Flex 5. And this was reviewed for the under 650. This was reviewed in an article recently by, and said, during my testing, I've done everything possible on it: web surfing, document creating, editing, blah, 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 blah. And I've tried everything in both laptop and tablet orientation just to see its kryptonite, and it came up empty. There is this author really, really, really couldn't find anything wrong and was praising this Lenovo Flex 5, and that's this one here for $409. They are hard to find because, again, they are being snapped up in great numbers. So that got my award for the best in that class. Then, of course, we have now oh, just a minute. We have another one here in the that I put in at the last minute. Oh, I know. Yeah, this is on sale at Best Buy. This is an incredible deal as well. This is the Acer Chromebook Spin 713, and it was $629. I'm not sure if it's still on for $529 at Best Buy. This is an incredible deal. It has an i5 processor. It has a 128 gigabyte solid state drive, a quad HD touchscreen, backlit keys, Gorilla Glass trackball pad, and again, it flips over on itself. And this is an incredible deal. Again, because it went from $629. That's right. That's why I put it in. Amazing discount on that machine. So that if you can pick one of those up, that is a really great deal. Now we come up to Chromebooks over $650. And of course, the Pixelbook is a Google line that's been around for a very long time, and this is a business line. This is my Pixelbook here. I paid around $1,600 for it. It's a 2-in-1 fast processor, and it's just a gorgeous machine. I get tingles down my back, and it gives me such great pleasure every time I pick it up and use it. And again, these are very popular. You can configure these to any sort of way that you want, but the cheapest you can really get them for is around $1,000, and they'll go up to about $2,500 depending on how you want to configure them. The other one, the Asus Chromebook Flip C436, this again is around $800. This is a nice machine, does lots of really cool things. And again, the Pixelbook Go, which you saw previously in the lower category, is again the mainstream. This is sort of replacing the Pixelbook. This can be configured even up into $2,000 and higher, depending on how you want to configure it. However, the coolest machine, and I like my Pixelbook so well, but this machine is the new kid on the block, and this is $999. This is so cool, and it's amazing. This is just released. It's Samsung Galaxy Chromebook. And this is this cool red finish here. It's got a 4K AMOLED display, 13-inch touchscreen. It's got an Intel i5 processor, and the reviews on this are unbelievable. The only problem is the battery life. Because of this really high 4K res screen, it requires a lot of power to power that screen. And so Samsung's got to do something about that battery problem, because they're only getting about 4 to 5 hours out of that. But this is a really cool machine. All right, I think that's about it. I'm going to stop sharing, and I'm going to open it up for any questions that people have, and see where we go with the questions. Or help. If you have any questions about Chromebooks, I'm happy to give you some help as well. You'll have to unmute.
Yeah, Ron, we talked earlier about the Chromebooks that we have with our AARP tax aid group.
Right.
And they're the ACES Chromebooks. But the biggest problem we have was with printing. And we have some where we'll connect to the printers at the beginning of the day. And after printing 1 or 2 returns, they stop printing wirelessly. The only way we can print from them then is to hardwire them. Is there anything that we could do to correct that problem?
I guess I would say that's an issue, and most likely you'll find that it's a problem not with HPs. As I said to you before, HPs really just work so well with Chromebooks. And again, there are so many different types of printers out there. There's Canon, and there's HP or Brother, and it goes on and on and on. And I would say if you have a printer that's been made in the last 2 years, then it's not a problem. And if it's an HP, it's never a problem. But if you get into Canon or Brother, it is an issue, and it just doesn't seem to work. And I don't have any issues. I just don't. There's no other solution for you. In that, and that is an issue that you have when you have multiple different types of printers.
Yeah. Are the companies, these are mostly Brother printers that we're using.
Yeah, Brother. I do a lot of tech work down in Mesa, and I got a team, there's a team of about 4 of us that do tech support. I always, when the tech calls come in for Brother printers, I send the other people out. I never want to go out and do Brother printers. I don't want anything to do with a Brother printer. The software that runs Brother printers is terrible, and it's from tech support. It just doesn't. It's just awful, and I don't think it's just a problem, because I spend half my life going around trying to hook PCs up to printers, right? So printing is always a problem, and I'm not sure that Chromebooks are any difficult than a Windows machine. However, I will say plug them in, because if you plug the printer into a Chromebook and it's not running through the network, then you can usually get it working.
Another problem that we've been having too with the Chromebooks is some of the people getting knocked offline, using the same network that we were using when we had our PCs. And the only way that they can get back online is to shut the Chromebook down completely and then turn it back on.
I'm not sure why that would be a problem. I think that's probably a network problem and a security issue. See, the Chromebooks are so secure. It may be related to the software that the networks are running and security, that you know, there could be different versions of the network software that are not compatible, or problems or security issues that come up, and that might kick them off the network. These machines are so secure that if you're running them on a network that maybe not so secure, then it will kick you right off the network, because it notices there's a vulnerable part of it, and that could be the issue. I have no problems. I mean, that's the first I've heard of that. I've seen, you know, I do a lot of Chromebook presentations. I do a lot of consulting with different people on Chromebooks and companies. I haven't seen that as a big problem. The printing one for sure. I mean, there's no doubt about that. But I haven't seen the network thing being an issue. Usually Chromebooks are very easy to connect on. You just dial onto your Google account. You must understand that a Chromebook, you have to know what your Google account is, and everyone needs a Google account. And if you have an Android device, you have to have a Google account. So you need to know what your Google account is, and you have to log on with that Google account to your Chromebook. And that's how the security works on them.
Can you speak to the quality of the apps that are on the Google Store compared to the other, especially high tech apps? I mean, like Adobe, and what else? I had something else in my mind. I can't think of it.
Microsoft Office.
How do they compare? Are they good?
Yes, in fact, I would say they are. In fact, you can use most. For example, let's take Microsoft Office, or Office 365 as they call it now. So the nice thing about that is it's free. So it's free, and I did a video on using Office 365 on a Chromebook, and it's got over 80,000 hits. So there are a lot of people watch that video. So the thing that Microsoft did was they created an app, an Android app called Office 365. You can use that app on your phone, or you can use it on your Chromebook, and it has PowerPoint, Word, it's got Excel, it's got all those features there, and you can run that on your Chromebook, and it's free. Free, $0.00, free, and you can download it right now.
Film apps.
Pardon me?
Film apps, you know, for video.
Video, yeah, you can do. Now again, you know, you can't use Camtasia, so you know, but there are a ton of video. Screen-o-matic, Screencast-o-matic is a great video editing one that works. I've used that on my Chromebook. There are a number of video editing programs that will work on a Chromebook. The other thing about Office 365, don't forget, is that are we getting some feedback? Or the other thing that you got to remember is that with Office 365, you can use it online. Any program that has, on a Chromebook, there's always two versions. There's the online version, and then there's the app. So you can you usually have your choice of either the app or the online version, right? And so that happens all the time. And that's the same thing with Office 365. You can use the Office 365 app, or you can log on to Office 365 online and use it there too, right? So you have your choice of which you want to do. And the same thing with most other apps, like Google Photos, for example. Google Photos is an app, and it's an Android app. But you also can log on and use photos.google.com, so you have the web version as well as you have the app version. So you have usually two choices on all of them that you use. And in most cases, you will be more than happy, unless you get into specialized, as I said, with my wife with her sewing, and she has certain sewing products that she use that they only make Windows. They only make it for Windows. So, you know, in those situations, you're just stuck. But I don't really think there's anything in my experience that you can't do on a Chromebook that you can do on Windows, right? I mean, I just don't see that. Well, a good example of, let me give you an example. There was one of the ladies in our club came to me a couple of years ago. She wanted to buy a Chromebook, and she said, I really want to buy a Chromebook. All the things you say are great. and we started talking, and I knew her husband was a famous guy, and he designed cars for model railways, you know, and he designed these cars and sent them all over the world, and he made these little cars that went on HO railway gauge, you know, like, and that he designed all these on, which he'd used for years and years on Corel Draw. Now, who the heck has ever heard of Corel Draw, right? I mean, that's like 100 years ago, right? So you know, there is no, well, we remember Corel Draw, right? But I mean, give me a break. I thought, it's not around. Do you still buy Corel Draw? Anyway, so he used Corel Draw, and he didn't want to change. So Corel Draw is simply not available, only available on Windows, right? So in that situation, I said to her, you know, the Chromebook isn't going to work for you. So there are specific applications like that where no, you shouldn't do it, right? But for 95% of the people, it's fine.
Okay, thank you.
I got a question.
Sure.
Thanks, a lot of good information here. Ron, we had a presentation a couple of months ago, or recently, on the just what Google has to offer, and as far as photos and documents and everything. And I don't have it. I have Windows 8.1, but they got one open office program, but I'm also thinking that if I replaced my desktop, I'm thinking, it seemed like a Chromebook could work, and if it's compatible with Google, I mean, the blending of the two, it seems like there's really a lot of benefits and to having both of those, as opposed to getting something from, let's say, like Office with the 360. I used to have that at work, but I don't have it now.
Right.
So just more or less kind of a comment.
Well, yeah, you got to remember that Google owns the Chromium operating system, right? Well, it's actually not, doesn't own it. It's open source, but Google, Google is running this whole thing, right? And Chromebooks are made to seamlessly integrate with Google. So everything Google just works on a Chromebook, right? So, and remember, you get Google Docs, you get Google Sheets, you get a word processor, you get spreadsheet, you get PowerPoint present, you get all the software free of charge, free. It all comes free when you buy a Chromebook. It's all included in the price. So you don't have to get an Office 365 subscription. You don't have to buy all that stuff that you normally do in Windows. It comes free. Everything is on that Chromebook is free. So and it seamlessly integrates with everything Google has. There's nothing that doesn't work with Google, just because Google owns, it's Google's system, right? So it all works integrated well.
And the security really, I think, for myself, for example, to go with something like that, you mentioned that the security is so excellent, that you wouldn't have to have a paid security or malware bites or CCleaner or things like that. I mean, that's incredible to me. It may not be to you, but it is to me.
So I have to tell you a funny story. A good friend of mine is a Windows really knowledgeable fella, and he gave a talk at our club on what you needed to do to keep your Windows up to date and tuned up. And he gave everybody a handout, right? There was 200 people in the audience, and he gave them all handouts, and there was a 2-page handout of all the things you should do to keep your Windows machine updated, right? And to keep it all tuned up. So the following week, I gave a talk on Chromebook, and I stood in front of everybody, and I said, I want to thank Vail for creating this great list of things you should do, and I tore it up. threw all the pieces up in the air, and I said, if you buy a Chromebook, you don't have to do anything, right? So there is nothing you need to do on a Chromebook. You don't update it. You don't put any antivirus software on it. You don't put malware bytes. You will never be hacked. It is totally secure, and that's That's the bottom line on a Chromebook. So you don't have to worry. And you will never be bothered about updates. You know, the 2004 that everyone's screaming about now, they're all trying to upgrade their Windows. It's a huge hassle. My Chromebook updated this morning. It took a couple of seconds. It just, boom, it did it. And you never have a problem. It's just so simple. I don't understand. In my view, nobody should be using Windows unless you have a specific application to use Windows. It's too complicated. It's too difficult. Now, we're techie people. I mean, we like to talk tech and we're in computer clubs, but the vast majority of people aren't. You know, they just want it to do what they want it to do, right?
Ron, I have a question.
Sure.
There's a vast array of processors that you could get in the
Yep.
Chromebook.
Yep.
Is there really any advantage in going above, say, an i3 on a Chromebook?
No, and because it's such a small operating system, you don't need the power. You don't need the power to run that, right? So you will find that in a Chromebook that generally you don't need the huge horsepower that's available to run the machines. Now, it depends if you're a person who has 3 monitors hooked up, you have 4 spreadsheets open, you are playing a YouTube video in one screen and doing a bunch of stuff on the other, and you're doing all this, yes, you will need more horsepower, right? But that's not most people, right? So if because remember my little Mazda Miata that was there, it just is such a tiny little operating system, you don't need that huge horsepower to run it. And you will find that people that make the Chromebooks put the right amount of RAM and stuff in there for you. So under normal circumstances, you don't really have to, it's not like Windows where you have to pay so much attention to it. When you buy a Chromebook, it just all works. You don't really have to, sort of pay attention to how much RAM you put in or anything like that, because it just all works really well.
I did want to pass along a comment. My brother laser printer works just fine. I have it hardwired to my Mac Mini, and it's on the system. It's on the wireless system. And the other day, after an update, I looked at my Chromebook and decided to try and print something, and there was that printer. It worked. It
worked good. I'm not saying it doesn't work. It does work some of the time, but if when I go out to do support calls, an HP support call I can fix in seconds. A Canon I can fix in 2 seconds. A brother, oh my gosh, it's all afternoon. That's why I don't go out on when I find out if it's a brother printer call, I send one of our other techs out. I don't want anything to do with it. So, but it's not, I think that, if it works, it's fine. But all I'm saying is if you are thinking of a Chromebook and you're thinking of a new printer, when you go just buy a HP printer, it'll work perfectly all the time with a Chromebook. And so if you're doing that, if you have a Canon at home, try it and see if it works. If it should, and even a brother, it should see it on the network. But if you go and your brother is on the network and you go on your Chromebook and you try to, and you're on the network and you can't find the printer, then you're hooped. It means that it's not going to see it, and it won't work.
That work with laser printers too?
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah.
Lasers?
Yeah. Not a problem. Yeah. Chromebooks, you can plug. Chromebooks are really good. You can plug anything into a Chromebook. You can plug 100 monitors in. You could plug 10 printers in. The ability of devices to be plugged into a Chromebook is limitless. It really, really, they work very well for that.
How many people are going to run out and get a Chromebook?
Well, have a look. These prices that I showed you tonight, these prices
Okay.
I showed you tonight are pretty current. Now, the only thing is that the you know, it's people are buying these in huge numbers. There are 3 times as many Chromebooks in the last 3 months have been sold than PCs. So, and so when you're looking for where to buy, Walmart's a good place. Walmart online is a good place. Best Buy, they're very popular there. So those are the places that I would go. Staples probably has. Staples doesn't have usually as big a selection of Chromebooks. Where else could you go? Those are the places that. But I would be really cautious and don't get refurbs on Amazon, because the school districts lease these in great numbers, thousands and hundreds of thousands of these. And when the lease comes up, the leasing companies take them back, refurb them, and then, you know, kick them out to often put them on Amazon, you know, and get you to buy them.
I did notice after reading a couple articles recently, I went to the online stores, Best Buy, and there's not a lot of variety available at this point. They're back ordered on almost everything.
Yeah, I don't think that's just Chromebooks, though. I think that's as I said, I ordered a workstation today, not a Chromebook, but it's a high-end workstation, for some graphic stuff that I'm going to be doing. And I ordered its custom order from Dell, 2 months to get it. 2 months. I thought, come on, you guys got to stick the stuff together and send it. 2 months to get it. So you are, you know, that's just the sign of the times. You've got school going back. You've got, you know, everybody working from home. They all want to upgrade their system. So the guys selling computers, it's great. You know, they're all doing really well. You know, that's good for the economy, right? So hopefully that the stock will come back. But some of those popular models, I would imagine, are hard to find.
Yeah.
And don't forget, Google has a store. Google has its own store. It's www.google, what is it, googlestore.com or something. But Google has their own, you can buy you know, product directly from Google, and it's I do that all the time, and that's they do a very good job on that. They have warehouses full of stuff, and they can ship. So a lot of times, if you can't find something, you want to buy a Pixelbook or a Pixelbook Go, and you just go to their online store, and you can usually find it. Well, that's great, everyone. Listen, thanks for having me. I will send you a copy of this recording, okay? Because it's being recorded, and I'll send you a copy of it. I've left in the chat our Tech for Seniors. If you want to come and join us on Monday morning, there's the if you just go to techforsenior.com, you'll see the link there to get the meeting number, and you just need there's no password. You just get the meeting number and just join us. Come and spend an hour with us and have some fun. It's free.
Thank you very much, Ron.
Okay. All right then.
Yes, thank you very much.
All right. We'll talk to you soon, eh?
Yes.
Oh, and don't forget, I have on Tech for Senior, I have all the presentations that you can look at. So if you want another presentation, just book it. You'll see all the lists on Tech for Senior.
Great.
Okay.
Appreciate that.
All right.
Thank you.
Okay. Bye-bye now. Good night.
Bye.